Welcome to Team O'Neill. I'm Wyatt. Winter weather produces some of the most dangerous conditions that most drivers are likely to face. With over 70% of Americans living where they'll experience snow and ice on the roads this year, if past seasons are anything to go by, this year we can expect over 500,000 car crashes on snowy and icy roads. Factor in rainy and wet roads and you can expect around 1 million more. So whether you're new to winter driving or an experienced veteran looking for just a few more tricks up your sleeve, let's take a look at what you can do behind the wheel to not only survive, but thrive this winter. So if you're just looking for the 60-second takeaway, you're driving a vehicle down the road. There's your limits as a driver, the car's limits, and the road's limits. If you exceed one of those, you're gonna probably crash. Not have an accident. We need to address that phrase, car accident. There's no such thing as a car accident. Cars don't have accidents. They're car crashes. They happen around 6 million times a year here in the US alone, and they happen when drivers exceed either their limits, the car's limits, or the road's limits. So we're going to take a look at ways you can be really familiar of those limits and stay within them, but also ways that you can expand each of those limits to make yourself and your family more capable in the winter driving season. So let's start with your limits. Behind the wheel as a driver, the number one thing that you can do is pay attention. And when you think you're paying attention, pay closer attention. Get rid of as many distractions as possible, turn the radio down, crack the windows so that you can hear what's going on, and really just good seating position, good hand position, eyes up down the road, and get ready to sort of do your job. Before you even start driving, you should know what the forecast looks like, what direction the weather's heading from, what direction you're planning on traveling. Hopefully you've got some experience with different kinds of snow at different temperatures, really cold snow and warm snow and wet snow and slush and kind of snowball snow. Just from walking around on different conditions, you can picture what's going on between your tire and that road surface. As you're driving, tune yourself in and all of your senses to what's going on around you. You can feel the steering, and really paying close attention with your hearing is critical. The noise that the tires are making on the road, whether they're crunching along or squeaking on dry snow or splashing in the slush, that's just telling you what kind of grip you have, that interface between your tire and the road. It's the easiest way to tell when you're driving on black ice as well. We've all driven in the rain, and you know that sizzling tire in the wet pavement sizzle noise? If the road ever looks wet, but your tires aren't making that wet tire sizzle noise, chances are you're on black ice. Cautiously slow the vehicle down, take it nice and easy, but that's one of those indicators that you're gonna just miss if you're not paying attention. This is why a lot of people really fall in love with winter driving. It's like skiing or snowboarding or anything else, where if you're doing it right, you don't have time to be thinking about anything else. It's got to completely kind of absorb all of your senses, and that's your focus, and that's what you're doing for the day. So there's sort of a meditative Zen moment behind the wheel. You'll really like it when you get the hang of it, but if you're disconnected from the car, you're not paying attention, or you have a lot of distractions, you're going to be in big trouble right from the start. Once you've learned as a driver to stay within your limits, the next logical step is to try to advance those limits, to learn a little more, to get a little practice, to drive a little more in the snow. The only way to do that is to really find a big, safe, open place and get some practice. Up here, we all grew up, sliding around in ski area parking lots after hours and that sort of thing. And honestly, it's the best thing you can do for yourself, a family member, whoever it is, new to driving on snow. Find a big open parking lot and just learn where the tires are gripping. If you try a little brake or acceleration, does the car get into a skid? Do one of the safety systems kick on? Can you feel the ABS brakes working or the traction control? You really need to feel where the tires are gripping and you've got full control. And then as they start to slip and you start to get into a skid, there's a lot of shades of gray where you're sliding a little, but it's no big deal, or a little more. Or finally, of course, if you do something really dramatic, you get into a big skid and just lose it. Your other option, of course, is to seek out some professional training, which is what we do here at Team O'Neill. We can put you through graduated exercises with personal instruction to really get good quickly. But if that's not an option for you, just seek out whoever it might be within your family or group of friends who's got a lot of experience driving on the snow. It's often your uncle or your grandfather or someone who's been driving on the snow for 40 or 50 years. They've got a lot of great information. They can ride around with you. They're really smooth when they drive and they brake nice and early and give everybody good distance. But when they do get into a skid, they can recover that. So having someone like that around just to get a few pointers, maybe have them ride around with you a little bit, you're gonna learn a lot more quickly with an expert or somebody with a ton of experience riding with you. Once you've learned to drive within your limits and you're working on progressing those limits, the next thing to look at is the vehicle's limits. And all vehicles are very different. Regardless of whether you've got a front-wheel drive car, a rear-wheel drive car, or an all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive car, the biggest deciding factor of how well you're gonna do in the winter is what kind of tires that vehicle is equipped with. On a day like today, really don't even think about it as mounting tires on your car. Think of it as mounting your car on those tires. You're only gonna be as good as those tires are on this road surface. You could have an all-wheel drive SUV or a four-wheel drive truck out here with all-season tires or some other all-terrain tire. And what you're gonna find is you might have the traction to accelerate, but those tires don't have the grip you need to brake effectively or steer effectively. The thing that eludes people about winter tires is they're gonna have a significant advantage even on dry, clean pavement that's very cold. A summer tire or an all-season tire is made of a hard rubber compound. When the temperatures drop, that hard rubber compound gets even harder, almost like a plastic or something like that. You could imagine walking around with hard plastic soles on your shoes. They're not gonna be very good. A winter tire has a nice soft rubber compound that stays softer and more pliable at very low temperatures. So even if it's 0 degrees and you're just driving on pavement, would you rather have hard plastic tires or soft rubber tires gripping that pavement? That's the same reason you're going to want to take your winter tires off in the spring, because they are so soft. When it heats up, you'll wear them out very quickly if you try and drive around all summer with them. We won't belabor the point too much. We do have a whole video on winter tires that if you're interested, we'll put the link in the description of this video. But just know, of all the winter car prep that people out there are doing with the winter wiper blades and the washer fluid and all of that stuff, it's wonderful. You can do all of that and it is a big advantage, but 97% of what you need to do in the winter is just get the best winter tires you possibly can, and that's gonna really set you up for success. So if you know your limits and now you know the car's limits, the deciding factor on how well you're really going to get around are the road's limits. And there's not really much you can do about the road's limits. They sort of are what they are. You could put the best driver in the world out on some icy mountain path and they're just going to slow down when they need to. You always want to make sure you're putting your tires on the best available grip. If there is some crunchy snow or a little brown dirt or whatever it might be, moving the car around, even just within your lane, can have a big impact on your available grip. You'll find drivers that are new to driving in the winter get surprised an awful lot when the grip goes away, when there's slippery patches in the road. The more experience you get as a driver, you'll start to see that stuff coming up. Those are the situations where you're going to have the biggest problem, when you're on fine grip now, but up ahead there's a slippery patch, there's some black ice, there's some other treacherous part of the road where it goes to a more slippery condition. There's really common situations, like on the interstate, you'll see the signs that say bridges freeze first, but we see it a lot with people coming up here to go skiing. As you're headed north, be aware that the temperature is likely going to be dropping the further you go. The same is true if you're going up in elevation. The higher you climb, those degrees are going to start dropping. If you have an onboard thermometer and you can monitor that outside air temperature, that's really crucial. Knowing that 32 degrees is a freezing point, you can find icy patches in the road up to 35, 36 in different places. It's really common here in the hills and mountains. As you're driving along the southern face of a hill, the sun's been hitting that all day, everything's melted, it's all nice and wonderful. But as you crest over that hill or drive around the back side of it, the northern face of a mountain has been hidden from the sun all day. It's gonna be colder, there's gonna be a lot more snow and ice in those situations. You'll see it in the city where large buildings cast a big shadow. The snow and ice is going to stay there longer. Out here, it's going to be trees and more foliage covered roads that are in the shade. You know, as you're driving along on a nice sunny road, if you come around a corner into the shade in the wintertime, expect there could be some ice there. And you'll just start paying more attention to all of these indicators, and it'll come naturally when you get used to it. You'll know when you're heading north and the sun's going down and you're coming into some weather, you'll slow down instinctively. So hopefully you found this video useful. If you have any friends or loved ones who would benefit from some winter driving tips, please feel free to share this with them. In the comment section, we want to hear your winter driving success stories, some victories you had out there through some really bad conditions, maybe driving an ill-equipped vehicle, whatever it might be. If you're interested in fast tracking your car control winter driving skills, please check out teamoneil.com. If you're into these kinds of videos, think about subscribing to the channel. Please be safe out there, have fun, and we'll see you next time.